Stanford University.
My first question would be, when is a sound sculpture for you a piece of music? Or is it a piece of music or a sound sculpture, or are the two interlinked? Is there a dividing line? Or for you, is it more important the sound sculpture itself or a piece of music that you're going to compose for it?
Well, there's definitely like the composing aspect is a big part, because that's how first the idea comes from a certain kind of let's say investigation. What should the sound do, or what should this object do, or this this acoustical element? And most of the time it has to do with moving the sound through space, or having this kinetic element of doing a certain kind of movement, like to learn. The audience should experience that the sound is not always coming, like we are so used of the orchestra always sits in the front, and then the sound always comes from the front, and we all think, since we have two ears, there's only a left and right channel, or some kind of two dimensions going on, but sound goes in all the different dimensions. So there is not a limitation. And probably my interest from early age on was being, my father was a musician as well, and we practiced together the flugelhorn, or we played together some simple duets. And one Sunday morning he asked me to go take a walk with the instruments into the woods and play some of these duets. And I thought, what a stupid idea, playing in the woods. And so reluctantly I agreed to go with him, and I was probably 10, 11 years old. And so as soon, and it was kind of a ravine, and about at the end of this ravine there was all these trees, and it was May, it was a Sunday in May, so it was a nice day, sunny day, and as soon we were starting to play, I suddenly couldn't believe what was acoustically going on. The sound was echoing, and then the mixture with the nature of, you could hear the birds singing, and the leaves from the wind was making the sound. And suddenly I was the first time aware what acoustically was going on in my head or in my ears, because before it was always like this rigorous practicing of the flugelhorn, and I didn't think about acoustics, or I didn't think what's going on when you move, when you hear the sound coming from different levels. So that's definitely in each piece. From the beginning, I was always finding out what can be explored to make the sound moving, or having the sound only up there and then suddenly it's only down there, or it moves in different direction. So using only very few installations using electrical or using amplification. All the installations are all pure acoustical material used to create the sound, except for the electric guitar. It needs amplification because the string wouldn't, you couldn't hear the string really. So this was always like an element of an interest to get still like to try to use acoustical sounds only to create this sound environment. But then beyond the acoustic, there's also what what do you want to explore musically? So there's always a composition involved in each piece. So it's not that's just like a kinetic structure which when you push a button
it plays always the same thing.
It plays always the same thing, but that's sometimes how you interface this installation. So it's in many ways, in almost all of the installation, the audience can interact and explore
change
and make the sound moving in different directions.
You know, I'm very, very fascinated by sound coming from all directions, because I've grown in Africa, but recently in the last 20 years I've been going to South America, to Colombia. And there's this amazing place where I go to, where there's a community of friends, and I walk from a village. This is in the Andes mountains, and I walk from a village called Cachipai to a little farm or a little, house with this space in the mountain, and I like to walk at night, at a particular time at night where night is falling, and there's all these insects. And as you walk through the mountain on this small road, you hear this amazing, soundscape coming from all directions. And as you move, you hear all the, the motion of all of those incredible insects. Many different types of insects, and sometimes other animals. And it's really amazing. It's an experience that I would like somehow to put into practice. But of course, my approach is different. Yeah.
But even when I hear and see your instrument, that's of course it's sculptural. It's definitely have a very strong sculptural element, but at the same time there is something coming out. It's not just aesthetics. How it looks like, the design, when you actually touch the instrument and you play the instrument, then suddenly there is a beautiful sound coming out, and that's of course when you compare it with this instrument, like this reminds me a little bit of the kora, the African instrument, because it's similar play, of course, from the two sides, and has also like the resonator part on the bottom, and this was kind of this also inspired by the
kora. No, actually, I don't. I'm much more into the final product of the music. So what I look for is a piece of music. In the end, I want to come to the composition or the result of the composition. But what so I don't even call myself an instrument builder, because for me the whole process of building the instrument and the object is more of a process of writing. So I call the object a three-dimensional writing process. So in a way I'm like someone who wants to make a piece of music but doesn't have an instrument to do it. So he has to create the instrument. And so I start with the black box. And what I put inside the black box are the meanings and the symbols and the elements that are part of the narrative of that piece that I want to write. And through the action of trying to compose the piece, which for me is not just writing scoring. That black box start taking shape, you know. And for instance, on this instrument, the initial piece that I wanted to write was about the Southern Cross constellation, which is something you can see from the southern hemisphere only. So the initial sketches that I made had a southern hemisphere, and then the Southern Cross constellation has 4 main stars. There are some more stars, but the main ones are 4. And so I started with 4 points that would hold some kind of key system. And then I started creating a whole story about it, and I imagined that each star would have a system of planets. And so each of these keys represent the orbit of planets around each of the stars. So slowly by slowly, I mean, my initial piece started taking shape through this object, and that's why I call these a set of variable parameters, because I don't know initially what it's going to sound like and how I'm going to play it. So all of these, all of these parameters are going to make me play in a certain way. Then I have to develop a technique like. Or it can be, sometimes like. It's I really have to work on trying to learn how to play this instrument. So it's a feedback cycle. I have to go back to the instrument, redesign it, and then try to learn how to play it and create pieces for it. And then in the end, what I really aim for is to be able to present pieces for the instrument. So it's quite conventional. The mise-en-scène, the performance side of it is quite conventional. On this case, most people tend to compare it to the cora, but it's actually inspired on the nest of a bird. So a weaver bird that weaves its nest, and this was a piece I wanted to write about this bird that had left a certain region in the south of Angola, because of the war that was happening there. And so in a way I'm talking to the bird and asking him to come back. That this is a bit like the metaphorical aspect of the piece, and so it's in a way it's a totem, it's a totemic object, and I call it totem heart, or now abbreviated into Doha.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm more interested in teaching or showing, having students to show different ways to how to approach this way of thinking, learning, and give them inspirations to do maybe the instrument in their mind, they design it in their mind, or using their mind to modify it and go on. Because since I'm using a lot of technology in my work, I know everything will be obsolete in a very short amount of time. It would be very hard to replace certain kind of elements, electronic elements. and that's in general a dilemma in the arts, like especially in the multimedia arts, when you have certain artworks which are using, when you have artworks using this kind of equipment, there's no replacements in 20 years or 30 years because everything is obsolete and it doesn't work anymore. Everything gets a shorter life term, you know, in terms of how long everything is existing and who is there to fix it. A traditional instrument, there's more kind of expertise and more kind of knowledge around because people still learn. Right, it's passed on, and they still learn more the traditional way. For a newer design, you know, like it's much more harder to
keep it going. Are you a musician first, a composer first, or you don't worry about it? It's
not
just
really.
A mix.
It started with being a musician, but through this allergy, which I couldn't touch any instruments anymore with my lips, I had to detach myself physically from playing an instrument, and then this was like the transition, still being connected to sound and music, making sound before I used my body to express a certain kind of a sound interest I had, like creating sometimes odd, weird sounds with a trumpet or whatever, because through the aperture you could do it, but your body was necessary to interfere with the sound, and this was suddenly gone. I couldn't use this anymore. So and then I was kind of finding this other way to still making music, still composing for this idea I had, and so. But I never was fitting in any category, you know. Like I studied music. I studied also like the psychology around music, and but it was always like I was only interested in certain parts in music. I wasn't interested. Of course, I had to study music history and all the other parts, which was a part of studying music. But I knew I wanted to go in this particular direction. So, and then it was necessary to take courses to learn how to weld, take courses how to use some machinery, like, and then I had to go to school to learn how to use a CAD program, using all this kind of different things which had nothing to do with music, but it was necessary to learn these other parts to keep going to build these instruments, and still today I'm studying, going to schools, taking classes when I need to know about whatever I'm working on. So I don't mind to use, you know, like any of this newer gadgets to implement, as long the same acoustical environment is still functioning.
Yeah. So you keep up with the technology. That's all.
Right, and then sometimes it doesn't matter. I'm a musician or composer or instrument builder, or like sometimes I'm more a plumber than whatever, you know, because I have to learn certain kind of stuff with pipes and thermodynamics and all this stuff.
For more, please visit us at stanford.edu.